I have to click.
Hello, Victor James
Hi, Dawn. It's
Dougherty.
so good to see you. Thank you for having me on the show.
This is going to be so fun. Um, this is your welcome to your author on demand private reading, where I will be reading to you a story from Blindsided, Essays from the Only Black Woman in the Room. This one is special because I rarely get to talk to someone and hear an account of something that happened from someone else who was there. So this is a treat because you're like one of the characters in the book, in the story.
Ooh, yay. So,
Victor James Dougherty. This is kind of like This Is Your Life.
yes, it's going to be a short show. Nothing much has happened in my life.
Good friend, collaborator, Victor. You and I have been friends for I don't know how long, and we have collaborated on so many things. You've been such a big supporter of my writing from my very first word. So as a musician, you've had me be part of musical things. So we've collaborated at musician and spoken word performances. We've collaborated with Jenny Hahn, visual artist, on folding together a performance that is spoken word, music, and visual art, which was so cool for the Kansas City Fringe Festival. That was, oh my gosh.
So,
yeah, that's one of my favorite things. And then you've always given me opportunities and invitations to speak before any audience that you've got. You've always said, Dawn, come and talk. And that's been just really sweet, Victor. Thank you. And also, as you pointed out before I hit record, we have something else in common. We both have little green men in our backgrounds.
I was going to say, make your listeners see if they can figure out what is the commonality, and the first one who sends in gets a free book or something.
But I just told everybody.
That's true.
So now I have to tell the story of my little green frog in the background. Is this that you were inviting me to speak every fifth Sunday at the Temple Buddhist Center because of my Buddhist background. I could tell my stories and bring the Buddhist philosophy into everyday life through my storytelling. So one day I was going to tell the story of, what was it? It was a Christmas. Oh, what's that thing you do? Secret Santa. It was a Secret Santa story about a Secret Santa in the days when I had a 9-to-5 job. And I became the Secret Santa for a coworker who collected frogs. So when I read the story to Temple Buddhist Center, I got myself a little green frog puppet, and the frog would do the Buddhist parts, the Buddhist lesson parts. It was so great.
It's still talked about to this day.
Well, it was a great exercise and reminder for me to take a chance and be funny and playful and creative. And yeah.
And that is so important, so important. And that's something that I think you and I have always brought out in each other.
Yep.
Ben likes to tell the story of you and I going down the stuffed toy aisle at a Toys R Us, pressing all the Tickle Me Elmos, getting them all going.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So Victor.
Yes.
I am reading to you a story called Seduced.
Got it.
And you will recognize it. And then after I finish reading, I will wait and see what comes up for you
Okay.
on hearing this story.
Got it.
Okay, so here we go. Positions, everybody. Frogs in place.
Frogs and little green people are all in place. Phone is turned off. And I have a warm cup of tea in hand. I am ready.
I have my water in hand.
I love That's a really cool cup, John. Where'd you get that?
Oh my goodness. Thank you for asking, Victor. My friend Victor James Dougherty gave it to me. It is the perfect mug. I am never without my ready mug. Okay, this is serious business.
Okay,
I don't know how it's going to be serious business with the two of us, but I think we might be able to pull it off.
We'll try.
Seduced. Excited about attending a kirtan for the first time, I crossed a parking lot from my air-conditioned car toward an air-conditioned yoga studio. The glass door snugged closed, freeing me from triple-digit heat. I paused to thank every Hindu deity I could imagine for relief from summer's oppression. Longtime friend Victor had invited me to the Sanskrit chanting practice, at which he would play guitar and sing. Tucking my shoes into a cubbyhole, a welcome bit of yoga ritual in a studio that was otherwise new to me, I grabbed a song sheet from a stack on a table and then slipped into the main room. Folding chairs had been arranged in tidy rows. I claimed a seat in the front row. A few women had already unfurled yoga mats and were sitting cross-legged on the floor in front of the chairs. Others sprawled on meditation cushions. Beneath miniature white lights strung in lazy loops across the ceiling, the musicians were transforming one corner of the studio into a stage. Arranging amplifiers, microphones, cords, and instruments. Instruments that Victor would later introduce like visiting dignitaries. Mridanga, a floor drum of southern India. Tablas, hand drums from the north by way of ancient Arabia. Harmonium, a keyboard originally from England. Faye, the lead singer, played the harmonium. She directed our attention to a chant at the bottom of our song sheets, a call and response. Faye sang the call, and Victor led the audience response. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. My voice at first uncertain, I grew more confident after every verse. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Accentuated by the beat of tablas, the chant pulled me in with a promise of ascension from the body, from the chair, from the earth. The audience grew, our sparse numbers multiplied into a crowd. As latecomers slipped into the row behind me, their cotton shirts brushed the back of my neck. Except for me, the single African American in the studio, my row remained empty. I suspected a connection between those facts, but turned away from suspicion toward the lure of transcendence. Victor leaned into his mic. If you're new to kirtan, don't worry. Join in. Dance if the music moves you. Soak up the energy. I glanced at the typewritten page on my lap, lifted my voice in adoration, and soaked up the energy. After exalting Lord Krishna, we called on the goddesses. Faye's soprano shimmered. The divine feminine beckoned. We followed. We appealed to the goddess of art and creativity, Hey Saraswati, the goddess of prosperity and wealth, Hey Mahalakshmi, the goddess of transformation and death, Hey Madakali. I came to them like a child. Jagatambe Jai Ma, Jagatambe Jai Ma. They smothered me with kisses. Incense sweetened the air. Fingers of smoke curled in ever-shifting directions as new arrivals trickled in. A man and woman grabbed chairs at the opposite end of my row and scooted them farther away, as if positioning for a better view, even though the people in front were on the floor. Sitting at one end of a long, empty row, I felt like a lone kid on a teeter-totter. Sanskrit made me tongue-tied, but the next chant began slowly enough for me to pick up pronunciations. Om Tara, Tu Re, Soha. Syllables popped from my throat. I was the drum. Om Tara, Tu Tara. I rocked from side to side. Tu Re, Soha. The chant sped up. Om Tara, Tu Re, Soha. Rhythm captured my feet. Om Tara, Tu Re, Soha. I welcomed oblivion. Shatter me, blast the shards to the winds. I wasn't singing any longer, only sputtering guttural noises, desperate for terror to take me, my voice giving out for lack of breath. And as the percussionist pounded a final thunderclap, Victor swung his guitar over his head and mimicked and mimed smashing it onto the stage. Praise God! Faye rose from her seat at the harmonium and knelt on the floor, crystal bowls lined up at her knees. We'll slow the energy down a bit so you can drive home safely. She swiped a wooden stick around the rims of the bowls and began the closing chant. I was disappointed the lyrics were in English, which normally triggered my intellect to spring into analysis and debate. But by this point in the evening, my mind had surrendered. After rounds of peace across the land and in the deep blue sea, a longing for peace trickled down my cheeks in rivulets. My voice shook. I could only mouth the final words, and a deep tone from the largest crystal bowl lingered, melted away. The musicians bowed. I lowered my head. Namaste. Eyes closed, I waited for my emotions to settle and for the rustle of an audience preparing to leave. But instead of, "Good night, thank you for coming," Faye announced, "We're going to end with a ritual to honor the light in each of us. Choose a partner and stand facing each other." Still in a fog, I rose from my chair. Waves of motion rippled across the room as chairs and cushions were pushed aside. There was a milling around, the chatter of voices, the slip and pad of bare feet. Pairs sprouted along the walls and in the corners. Twos expanded into fours and then sixes, which whirled around the studio, filling in the empty spaces. The figures were ghostly, floating in incense clouds and the half-light of a setting sun. When the mingling slowed to a standstill and the chatter tapered off to murmur, and the choosing was complete, I was alone in the center of the room, the bullseye in a target. This did not happen. Not here. Of course it happened. Here. I should have seen it coming. Stupid, stupid me, to be seduced by the possibility of love in a room full of white people was as reckless as mooning over a married man. I fought the urge to run. Fleeing would only draw attention. The only thing that would save me from humiliation was the invisibility that had caused it. That and hatred. My eyes narrowed to slits, my cheeks flushed hot. I coiled, ready to savage this room full of devotees. My fists gnarled into witches' hands with hooked nails to tear bloody stripes across the backs those worshippers had turned on me. To rip all those pink feet from their shocked ankles, feet that walked away from me and danced to the beat of God's lying heart. A command from the stage startled my hatred. You two pair up. Faye was spotlighted under the twinkling lights, one hand pointed at a woman on the far side of the studio, the other at me. The woman hurried toward me. Like Gollum, my malice retreated into its cave, which allowed my eye slits to open in welcome. Just get through it, Dawn. Nose to nose with our partners, we formed two concentric circles. Those on the inside faced out. Those on the outside faced in. Music swelled. We sang a verse. The outer circle shifted to the right. I was opposite a different partner. We chanted and bowed. Singing into those other eyes, I was looking into faces of innocence, moonlit orbs that reflected namaste. We were unspoiled. We were pure of motive, every one of us. When the light in me bowed to the light in each of my partners, my personality, wearing its crown of slights, dissolved. Soon enough, the exercise ended. Regulars exploded out of their reverie into gossipy groups. And still, I expected someone to offer an outstretched hand in welcome or apology. None did. I threaded through knots of well-wishers to compliment the musicians. Victor was stuffing chords into a plastic bin. I hoped he hadn't noticed me unchosen in the middle of the room, and also hoped he had. We hugged and laughed. My, "Hey, that was wonderful," followed by his, "Glad you were here. Thanks for coming." His effervescence seemed an indication he had not noticed. My good cheer, on the other hand, was a nervous tick. Our words swallowed by the surrounding din, I turned away, intending to say hello to Faye. I hoped for a remorseful acknowledgement of the scene she had witnessed, which would reverse the last hour back to the promise of Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. But she was deep in conversation. My feet stuck to the floor. Go? Stay? I was rickety, nailed together with mismatched emotions. I stumbled away, reclaimed my shoes, and opened the door to leave the studio. The summer night seared my face. Heat so oppressive, I could not breathe.
So there are so many reactions that I sense and feel. I mean, there's a part of me that feels mortified. There's a part of me that feels heartbroken. And there's also a part of me that is actually joyous because of the writing. In other words, the story itself is just such a beautiful, it's its own kirtan. It's a beautiful piece of art that expresses beautifully the many experiences that Dawn had that night. So there's a lot of things that come up for me, in hearing the story. But one of those is a core issue of my own, which is wanting to, I'm not sure how to say this, but wanting to perhaps dictate or control everyone's experience. So I have caught myself doing this in like meditation retreats, trying to somehow, let people know what they may or may not experience and how to deal with all that kind of thing. But in kirtan especially, there's this desire on my part to I want my friends and everybody there to have a very joyous experience. And so there's a selfing going on that in other words, taking it personally, which it's not, but it still hurts anyway, that my friend would have this kind of experience at something that I wanted her to have a joyous experience. And what's interesting is that for quite a while you did. For the first, I don't remember how long it was, but the first hour and a half you were having a good experience and it was joyous. And then that weird thing that I personally cannot fathom because it has not happened to me. And it is not that kind of, I guess the word I'm looking for is discrimination is not something that I have experienced, which is at the root of a lot of the issues, I think, in our communities around the country. So white people can't they can't fathom what it is, so then they make matters worse by turning to black people saying, tell me what's happening, what's going on, and what's wrong. And that's not for those people to share that with them. That's something they have to begin to see. And that's the beauty of your writings. All of them help bring about in a very, very visceral way what that's like. And that's one of the feelings that comes up for me. So like I said, there's a lot of feelings in my reaction to that, lots of different ones.
We had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, you and I, and we were talking about an awkwardness the last time we had coffee. And I think afterwards you emailed me and said that along the lines of you were reluctant or afraid to recognize your own racism. Am I close?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go there, Victor.
Yeah.
Um, so
Right.
say some more about.
Well, I went from realizing at some point, and I don't remember when this was, it was recent, it's been in the past year or two, maybe recently, that just because I don't want to be racist doesn't mean that I'm not. Just because I don't want to be, I am a product of a society that on almost every level has built in this discrimination. And that's why, I mean, when I hear people talk about, oh, I don't see color, which is also an inappropriate and an unskillful response. But I remember at one point saying that all of these are conceptual mental efforts at trying to cover over the real or a realer issue, which is that feeling, that inability to actually open up, share, talk with people about the awkwardness, about the uncomfortable feelings that arise in situations
Are you talking
where,
about yourself?
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. But in seeing this in myself, I understand why people say and do it, but I can only do that by seeing it in myself
Uh-huh.
and understanding
So,
it in myself.
um, what can you give me a for example where you have seen yourself not racist, but acting out of a white centered place where you have caught yourself and said, oh, that's it.
Yes, yes. It shows up for me as almost like a little, it's like a background noise or a sense or a feeling. It's very subtle, but it shows up, for example, let's say a car pulls up next to me at a stoplight, and if it's really loud car, here comes this image or this thought before I even look. And that's uncomfortable to me now.
What's the image or thought that comes up?
This is a person of color. And I haven't even looked yet.
Yeah.
And now I've tried to give you a real world recent example. Obviously, that can spread out to societal examples. For example, when the riots and the looting, things like this are going on, there is a subtle, oh, well, of course that's happening, but it's not because there is a true need for that to happen. It's because it's people of color, and this is what they do. Because I've seen it happen from the darn it, having a senior moment. I've seen it happen from the original civil rights movements and things like that. But these are all, it's conditioning. In other words, that's how it
Okay,
was.
so you were going to tell me a more recent example of how you saw
That was
this.
the car. If the car
The
pulls up
car,
next to me at the stoplight,
yeah,
but I'm
right,
saying that's a little one,
yeah.
but it moves out to bigger
It
ones.
does. Does it move out to bigger ones for you?
Yes, yes, it
Oh,
does. because it has always been presented that way. Now you're getting into media, newspaper, the circles of people that I would move in and how they would all talk and speak. And it's just so my point that I'm making is that all of these things mask the difficult, painful emotions, the desire to not be racist. It's kind of like almost like it's like the desire to not be racist makes me racist.
Self-conscious.
Yes. And there's the awkwardness, and there's the awkwardness that shows up.
And then I think let me say a little so what I think what I'm hearing, the awkwardness, the desire. Oh, I lost my microphone. I sure hope I didn't say anything important. The desire to not say something racist makes you racist. So what I think, what I'm hearing is that the desire to not be racist comes up, but there's a fear that this Black person will be offended by it. And so that fear, because it's a Black person, is the racism, the white centeredness. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And then there's the fear that, which I have experienced as well, around, for example, asking you to speak at Temple Buddhist Center. Now, it has always been, for me, your Dharma, your ability to express Buddhist principles, and really it goes kind of beyond Buddhist even, really. But it works so well with the Buddhist practice. But to express those in story and viscerally is, for me, just absolutely bar none. It is absolutely so wonderful, and I want that for my community. But then there's also, in there is the desire to have people of color sharing with the community, and see, that's racist.
The desire to have people of color in your community seems racist to you?
Yes, because what's not racist is the desire to have the Dharma through the eyes of dawn.
Okay.
Spin on the Dharma
this is so good. This is so good. So the desire to have people of color in your community can be a recognition that your community is not complete because it's homogeneous. And a desire to make your community better. And one way to make it better is to bring, is to make it heterogeneous.
Yes, I guess.
And that is not racist. That the acknowledgement that race factors in to our experience is not racist.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
And these kinds of conversations are difficult. I think probably, at least they are for me, are difficult. And there is a kind of a, what would you call it, a mindfulness or a metering of the thoughts, and then the speech that comes after it, wanting to make sure that it's appropriate and is not in a way. But again, that desire to not be racist, then brings up that separation and that awkwardness.
Right. Because you think that because she's Black, she might be offended.
Yes.
So in human relationship, this is what brings me closer to people, is the willingness to blunder, the willingness to embarrass myself for the other person, the willingness for the other person to embarrass themselves. If it comes in to me as racist, I will be able, based on our friendship, to tell you that.
Yes.
And that's the part that's the trust that I want in my personal relationships. That's the dignity that I want in my personal relationships.
Yes.
Don't lower your expectations of me because I'm Black.
Right.
Treat me as an equal friend, with this emotional connection that we have. And trust this. Blundering is going to happen. We will step on each other's toes. That's okay with me.
Well, let's see. And what you're speaking to now is the beauty of our practice, because for our listeners, you and I have been practicing together since, I don't know when I say practice, I mean meditation, mindfulness, is self-inquiry,
But Victor, I would broaden it out. It's also the beauty of a heart-to-heart connection with another human being, no matter what spiritual practices
Right. Yes, I totally
are in the background.
And something that I've always admired about you is the immediacy of your practice. In other words, you have woke me up numerous times, like the time when I came to you and I said, "Oh my gosh, Dawn, people are leaving the Sangha, the meditation."
Yeah.
And you look at me and you go, "So your mind says that's a bad thing?" And I just
counting numbers.
And I just stood there going, "It is doing that, isn't it?" And I'm not sure. I think I just wandered off in a daze from that point. I don't remember anything after that. But I want to share something with you. Do we have a second? This is just a tiny small paragraph from a poet by the name of Mark Nepo. And I just love this. And it actually reminds me very much of you. It is so simple and yet so brave to say that we are hurt when we are hurt, that we are sad when we are sad, that we are scared when we are scared. In very direct and daily ways, this energy of realness changes situations, because the immediate expression of our truth releases light and warmth that influences the life we are a part of. This is the way our spirit shines. For me, that's you.
Thank you. And that's, yeah. I really believe in trying to say, I'm sad, I'm angry. It's so hard to do that. Yeah. And that's, in trusting relationships, that's what happens.
Yeah.
And it's not smooth or easy.
No. But there's a trust there that, the other heart will allow this heart to be where it's at, when it's at, without needing it to be any different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did you at the kirtan, did you notice the pairing up and that I was in the middle of the room by myself?
I did not. And in all honesty, I did not. And there is a reason for that. I am the technical director for the kirtan. So I'm actually looking at meters, levels, lights, turning on reverb, turning it off. So I'm back there messing with all those things. And so Faye is really kind of the one who's more focused on what's going on, which is why she said, hey, you two, she saw where there needed to be a pairing. And so she said something. But interestingly enough, she didn't make the connection.
That's right. And that's the difference between my internal experience and the experience of a white person who would have observed it, because there's a gut reaction to it. And you said earlier that I had a good experience with the kirtan for the first, until that happened. But there were several moments.
The road not filling up.
Yeah, I was aware of race. And I was aware of race when I walked in the door, which I may not have said, but when I walk in the door, there's an automatic census.
Yes.
There's an automatic census. I'm going, oh, I did it again. And counting, looking, scanning the room to see if there's another person of color, and counting. And because that's what we do. And I know I'm not the only one, because I've talked to other.
Yes, right. And and so and I very much applaud, the past few years here. You have been, I'm done, doing this. I'm going to be more mindful about attending and sharing with communities that are a little bit more, I guess, diverse is perhaps the situation, instead of
you can say that.
going to one that is not, and then there you are again, right back in that situation. So I applaud that in you. It's I think all too often we'll look at the opposite of it. Look at how many people remain in the echo chambers, where they're only sharing with the people who think the way they do, only attending events with people that look the way they do. Instead,
are you in an echo chamber?
What you mean right now, or you mean
no? The way you meant it when you said people are in echo chambers.
I do, at least with my job, directing TVC, I do not feel that way any longer. It has diversified very nicely, and I feel blessed in that scenario. My group of friends, is really quite diverse too. I don't feel that way. I really don't. As you expand.
Do you have other Black friends?
Pardon?
You have Black friends? I don't count.
That feels like a loaded question.
I don't know the answer. You don't have to answer if you don't want. I didn't know the answer.
So are you asking me if I have Black friends?
Yeah.
VJ and Ben, and you said you don't count, right? You're
right.
Not,
I don't count.
Not present moment. Yes.
Ben, who's Ben? Do I know a Ben?
He attends TBC, and we have lunch at Panera from time to time. And VJ and I have done some programs together, musical programs, meditation, sound healing programs like that. So, and I feel so blessed. I really do because Dawn, because there is, with my practice, I have one thing going for me, and that is that it feels dissonant when I am in an echo chamber.
Yeah.
It feels dissonant.
I know
There's
what you mean.
something not right. And if I get up in my head about it, I don't think I'd ever be able to get out of it. But when I just feel in my heart and I'm just like, I think I'm gonna do something different. This one's not I don't even need to know what it is. It's just not working.
Right. Yeah. It feels something's up. I like to say there's a disturbance in the force.
Oh, wait. Yes, there's a disturbance in the force. It's so true. And I really count that as a blessing. I do. It is what an amazing gift, that discomfort. What a gift.
It is, you crazy person. Give me some discomfort. This is way too comfortable. Give me an itchy wool sweater.
Yes.
Victor, thank you for having this conversation with me. It was a treat. I'm going to turn off the recording, and I haven't figured out how to turn off the recording without looking down. So here I go. Here's the looking down part, looking at my screen. So
bye all the listeners and everybody. Bye, you guys, and thank you.
Bye out there in TV land.
TV land.